In my videos, I'm very often speaking about who is actually at the helm. Because, for instance, I speak about many spirits engaging in this human experience. And yet, we all know people who are very automated and they appear to be the same sort of character. They do the same stuff. They don't have any initiative, no flair. They don't have no desire to create. They don't go off on different tangents. They never experience something different. They never feel like changing their lives in any ways. They just continue on the straight and narrow. And so I was listening to some video, of course. I'm always listening to videos. And this guy that actually was conducting the podcast, he was saying things like, well, you know, what's the point then to life when all we do is just get up and we go to work and, you know, we eat the same sandwich, or we go to the same restaurant, or we stop at the same place for a coffee, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, really? I've never done that. I've never done this same shit. I don't know what it is to do that. There was a saying that I often quoted by some poet or philosopher, and it goes like this. There was a young man who said, "Damn, it is born within me that I am, a creature that moves in predetermined grooves, not even a bus, but a tram." And so if you move in predetermined grooves, then you are automaton, aren't you? And if you've been doing the same job and having the same partner for all those years, and you have the same food, and you never step outside of, I wouldn't even call it a comfort zone, I'll just call it a flatlining dead zone. If you never do anything new, there's never any inspiration, you never throw a spanner in the works just to bring about something different, for goodness sakes. And so anyway, I don't have those issues. I'm always speaking about having lots of spirits which partake in this human experience. And so, for those of you that are avid viewers, you'd know that I haven't uploaded for about 6 days, I think. And that's very, very unusual for me. But I just haven't felt the inclination, because that spirit has moved away. And the spirits that are at the helm these days are the musician, concentrating on my guitar playing, the vocalist, or wannabe vocalist. So I'm listening to vocal training coaches, and I have actually got a vocal training package that I bought several years ago. So I'm starting again on that. And, you know, it's very curious when we learn, because it's like when we read a book. We will derive X from the book at a particular time, but then when we read the book again, we will discern why. And in recent times, I read again for the 4th time Peter Kingsley's Reality. And I remember when I first read it, I remarked, making videos about it, that it was the most powerful book I'd ever read. And yet this time around, I felt it was like watching paint dry. And I couldn't work out what it was that I was so impressed with. I don't know whether I have such a short memory of how far I have come, or how much I may think I've evolved, or how much I've learned. But that book is renowned for being a very powerful and important book. And I once considered it to be. But now it's kind of like, it's also tedious. It's also elementary. And I think the luster has gone out of my philosophizing now, because there hasn't been anything which has been, impressive, let's say impressive, which I've read or listened to in a long time. And what we find is, when we have reached a certain peak, we can't really learn too much more, because we've reached a level of intuition and we've got such a knowledge bank and we've got experience to back it up, that it's kind of like, well, like Alan Watts said, when you get the message, hang up the phone. And it really is a case of that. When you get the message, hang up the phone. I'm no longer 20, 30, 40 or even 50 years old. I'm 61 in a couple of months. And if I don't think that I'm abreast of what I am and what this thing is, to the degree that anybody can, if I don't think that I've got abreast of that by now, then what am I doing? Well, what's going on in here? Nothing. For the thousands of books that I've read and hundreds of thousands of YouTube hours, I've been doing what I've been doing for 14 years non-stop, and it's been my vocation. It's not like I go to work and I come back and I do an hour or two on YouTube. I've put 10 or 12 hours into my study every single day for 14 years. And so I think that particular spirit has grown weary. And any other spirit that was lusting after the acquisition of knowledge from these deep esoteric realms, now it's kind of like, well, I've been there and I've done that. I'm no stranger to psychedelics. I'm no stranger to all the prominent philosophers, and and it's kind of like round and round and round we go. So that guy, that spirit that was guiding me to educate me, has now gone, oh, there you go. It's kind of like that old series of Kung Fu starring David Carradine. Those of you that are about my age who remember that, that was an awesome show, and that really set me on my way. And I was only about 10 years old when I was watching that, but I just was mesmerised by the power that he could have over his mind and over other people when they wanted to attack him or manipulate him, compromise him in any way. He was a very calm, Chinese guy, and when he got fucked with by these cowboys, it just put him to rights. And so that series, and then watching Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon, well, that's what sent me on my way to start martial arts. And it was a wonderful journey. But like all journeys, I think there's a time when they come to an end. And my martial arts journey came to an end, I don't know, really, in real terms, I think about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when I stopped competing in tournaments and had no cause to ever use those techniques again, because in all my life of travelling I have invariably never had to use it. And so it's kind of like, well, set it aside then and begin with something new. So what I'm saying in this video is, people, that I don't know who is coming to the forefront of this experience, this human experience. I don't know from one day to the next who is coming forward to want to take the helm and engage in something for its own sake. You know, I've been playing the guitar and practicing singing for many years, and I've been up and down and been through deep levels of frustration, which is a natural thing when you are learning to master your vocal cords to whatever degree. And if you've not been gifted, then it's a struggle and a fight. Every single day it's a struggle and a fight. Like playing the guitar, it's never been easy for me. I was never a master at playing the guitar in a previous life. It's kind of like this is the first time any of my spirits have picked up the guitar, and it comes hard. And so by no means would I ever be a great guitar player. I would only ever be a mediocre one. And you ask yourself, well, all the hours I've put in 15,000 hours, maybe more. And by the time you've done 10,000 hours, you've passed over the threshold of being able to take a certain mastery over something, because that's what they say about things. It doesn't matter what it is, but mostly musical instruments, by the time you've done 10,000 hours, then you can play it. Okay, I can play it, but there's a whole bunch of stuff I can't play. I can just run through chords and rhythm and this and the other, but really limited. And so we ask the question, what's going on? And then when we look on YouTube and we see like 2-year-old babies playing guitars with their stubby little hands that can barely fit across the fretboard, and they've got something which is just a miracle. It's miraculous. And so we have to know that there is nothing going on here, people, which is original. And I was dreaming last night, because in these past 7 days or so I've been thinking, well, there's something that I want to say and I don't know how to say it, and maybe it's all been said before, but it's about the ego, the soul, the spirit, and varying other spirits, entities, which constitute this human experience. Now, I think there's going to come a time, people, when scientists, philosophers, intellectuals are really going to start asking more questions about what's going on here with the human experience. Because as far as I'm concerned, this body is just an empty shell. And I think many people who are religious would say, yes, it's an empty shell until a soul enters, or it's guided by spirit. And so I've looked into what the soul is, long and deep. I've looked into what the ego is, long and deep. And I've looked into what the spirit is, long and deep. And they all play an independent part, but also a collective part. Now, when we look at the human being, when it's born, it is born with a certain independent individual writing upon its motherboard. Let's just say that. Genetics, mostly genetics, but also there's other things which are gifted to us or not. And who knows why some people are gifted with talents and they are exceptional people, and the vast majority of us are not. Where does this come from? Who decides that? When we've got people like all the greats, or when we've got people like superb actors or musicians or singers, and you go, well, look, what they have is not of this world. It's not something that someone could learn in one lifetime. They have been seriously gifted from the start, but it appears that they have had massive amounts of previous life experiences where they've been mastering their skill. And in this life, it kind of all comes together. Whereas I have never felt gifted in any way. Even my fighting, I was always strong. I always had the heart of a lion, and I had the kind of like perfect body for boxing or martial arts, due to it being reasonably tall and slender and athletic. But as far as the information being gifted to me, I never had any of that. And so everything that I've ever achieved in my life, I've had to work for really, really hard. And so now I'm going back to the grindstone with my music, because there is a spirit within me that wants to be able to sing proficiently, wants to be able to express itself proficiently, because it's a feeling. And this is what I've always said in my videos. Life is a feeling, people. It's not about intellectualizing it. It's not about gathering up all different sorts of qualifications and letters before or after your name or anything like that. It's about a feeling. Life is a feeling. And when we still our rabid minds and we introspect, we become absolutely still, so we can feel everything about our minds and bodies. That's then when we start to really learn, because that's true knowledge. It's subjective knowledge, because everything else, which is abstract, it's not knowledge as far as we're concerned. Knowledge only becomes knowledge when we subjectify it, when we experience it, when we actually can say that we know something because we know what it feels like. If we don't know what it feels like, then we don't know it, do we? I mean, even say like, basic math, there's a feeling to it. You feel that that's right. And so it's all a feeling. And so, when I look at the ego, well, the ego is just the silly, naive operating system, which all of us have. All of us have an ego, which is the very, very basic, like Windows 95 operating system. We can observe the ego in everyone. A soul is something quite different. A soul gives us passion. It gives us art. It gives us poetry. It enables us to love and to hate and to abstain from hate, and all these different nuances of being a human being that are held in high regard. So we have these attributes and we polish them and we craft them when we have a soul. If we don't have a soul, then we can't craft these things. And let's just give an example. Let's just say like a psychopath. In my estimation, psychopaths don't have souls because they can't feel empathy, they can't feel love, they can't feel another person's pain, and I'm not even sure that they feel pain themselves, other than something on the body, but they wouldn't feel any emotional pain or mental trauma or anything like that. They're detached from that, and so it stands to reason that they don't have a soul. Now, this soul is very, very much in unison, in line with the ego. And I think that if we look closely at what the soul is, the soul was always spoken about in the ancient times because they didn't have the concept of the ego. But when Freud came along and he told the world what was going on inside the human mind, and he coined the term the ego, then many people stopped using the word soul, unless of course it was kind of like a musical expression, or that person's got soul. And then most people, they will intertwine it with spirit. That person's got spirit. What do they mean when they speak about soul and spirit? They speak about something outside of the ego. They speak about some sort of connection, some sort of pulling from somewhere, some acquisition of something which isn't the everyday human experience. It's something over and above that, the soul of the human being, the soul of collective human beings. And some people say that the soul will go up to heaven, but the soul won't go up to heaven. There is no heaven per se, as I'm more speaking about. But how can the soul go somewhere when the soul is just a human experience? The soul is just feeling love and feeling compromise and feeling joy. And any other human experience, that's what the soul is. It's the electricity to a light bulb, which enables the bulb to emit light. So it's our life force. But there's a difference between the soul and the spirit. And this is stated very, very clearly in biblical scripture. Because there's many people that have spoken about the soul and the spirit as being very, very different entities. And so the spirit, in my mind, is consciousness. Consciousness is the spirit. And there are many, many varying facets of consciousness, as we know. And so we look around and we ask, well, is this person conscious, and how conscious? And that person doesn't appear to be that conscious to me. And so there's so many different variances of consciousness that we have to go, well, it seems to me that the whole spiritual thing is graded. And you say, well, wow, spirit is graded? Like, educational grades or this, that and the other? Yes, it really does seem to be that, because we know when somebody's highly spirited as opposed to someone who isn't spirited, don't we? They're dead. They've got nothing going for them at all. They don't act in any way that any human being would really benefit from. But whereas some people, being highly spirited, they'll achieve many, many things and they'll impress many human beings. And so there really is a vast difference to the human being. And this is why many people are in such an objection about what the liberalists are trying to do to the world. They're trying to kill all that. They're trying to pretend that nobody has a variance in consciousness. They don't have a variance in spirit. They want to say that everybody may have a soul and everybody's got a spirit, or nobody's got a soul or a spirit. Well, whatever it is, they want everybody to be the same. When it's clear to me throughout all of my life that there are many, many variances to all these things. And so I can only speak with any great level of confidence about myself and selves and what goes on within me, what goes on within us. It's always so very, very plural all the time. And when I speak about these shifting spirits which take the helm, and I speak about, there's a mounting ear within me, there's a musician, there's some sort of a vocalist, there's a lover, there's a fighter, there is a contester, there's an agitator, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And when I look at myself and I go, well, look, this agitation spirit within me is very profound, supercilious, and it's been around for a long, long time. I don't know how long. Maybe it's always been around, or maybe it was just created at some early stage in my childhood. That was probably, closer to a reality, because we seem to gather spirits as we go through life. And if we accept the spirits, then they'll stay with us. If we reject them, then they'll leave. And so we can have jurisdiction over what spirits enter into this vessel to share an excursion. And many people, they will fight against so-called demons and negative energies and this, that and the other. But I've never been that way inclined. I've always been willing to work with negative energies, because I think that's how the cosmos is. The cosmos isn't all one thing. It isn't all light and it isn't all dark. And if we try to banish every single semblance of darkness out of us, so we're going to go into heaven, well, I think people are being exceedingly misguided. And they're wasting their life excursion here on this planet because there's been many things pertaining to the human being that they wouldn't do. They'd be abstaining from this. I mean, for instance, people that abstain from masturbation, people that abstain from thoughts of lust, people that abstain from, doing many myriad of things that would be frowned upon by the man in the sky. I'm like, fuck the man in the sky. Who is this fucking man in the sky? None of it makes any fucking sense to me. And so I go, well, look, I can take on board the attributes of good and I can take on board the attributes of bad. And we juggle with those through life and we utilise them whenever we deem fit. Sometimes we'll do something in our best interest, which may be considered bad to other people. But was it bad to who and why? And so we have these very, very grey areas. And this is what the postmodernists are always about. They're always saying that everything is subjective. And it is. The world, the cosmos, is a subjective experience because we all experience it in our own individuated ways. And so now, I'm going to the gym, and that spirit isn't that powerful these days, where it used to be really, really powerful. The spirit to seek out knowledge isn't that powerful. In actual fact, I don't really have any spirit which is running the shop, so to speak, which is at the helm on a regular basis. They're interchangeable, and so one spirit is the gym spirit and the fitness spirit. The other spirit is the educational spirit. The other spirit is the singing spirit, and then the guitar, the musician spirit, and basic contemplation, meditation spirit, deep seeking spirit. There's a whole bunch of spirits that wash over us and come and play with us and engage with us and taunt us. And so they're just the vicissitudes of life. And I'm pretty sure that if you sat down and if you contemplated what spirits that you have inside, let's just say drivers. If you don't even like the idea of spirits, you can just say drivers. What drivers do you have? Why are you driven to lie? Why are you driven to take mastery over people? Why are you driven to be reclusive or hermit-like? Why are you driven to do all these things? Who is it? What is it? What on earth is it? Can you change it? You can change lots of things. You can change lots of things, and in my book I speak about getting our house in order by expelling the unwanted dwellers within the house and advertising for new dwellers which are much more conducive to the rest of the beings, entities within that house. And then when you've got the vast majority which are all conducive with each other, then things work much better, and there's a smoother transition through life. But I do believe that it is necessary to have a variety of spirit that wants to turn over the tables. You see in that metaphor of Jesus turning over the tables of the money changers, we all need that. We need someone to stand by our convictions and to bring about change. If we're not happy in our lives, we have to have a spirit who's going to be turning over the tables. It could be in our relationship, it could be in our work, it could be just general things in our lives. If we've slumped in some sort of level of apathy, then we need to turn the tables over. We need to just go, fuck it, flip those tables and start again. Or appeal to other entities to come and join us. It's just like a business. We advertise for whatever position that we need, and so it's no different to that. And so if we find ourselves bereft of a certain something, then we contemplate that, and then we ask how we could acquire it, and then we set our stall out to acquire it. And so we may need to evict certain entities because they're no longer conducive to us anymore, and hire new ones. And so I'm on the precipice now of doing that. I'm kind of like, well, I'm looking for new recruits to head in another direction, but I'm not quite sure of the direction that I want to head in. And so I'm kind of like, I'm out on the ocean and I've got no direction, but the helmsman is just kind of like playing around, and sometimes it will go left and sometimes it will go right, and sometimes it may even go round in a circle because there's no direction. I don't have an objective. I'm just playing. And so I think that's a beautiful place to be, really, just to play in life. If you're content just to play, then you don't need to strive, because striving is all vanity. In any case, you know, at the end of the day, what do we acquire by striving? You know, that's the question, isn't it? What really do we acquire? I mean, I am striving to play the guitar better, to sing better, to carve this vessel better. But where does that get me? How many people really get the greatest of benefits from their striving? I mean, I've been doing these things now for many, many years. And it's a case of, well, what really has it amounted to? I don't know what it's amounted to, really. Other than that it's just amounted to this, to us. It's all very bizarre if you ask me, people. All very bizarre.